Welcome back to Ghost Powered Entertainment. I'm your host, Kainan Becker, and today it begins. Today I begin my journey of reviewing the Phantasm series. Okay, so to start this out, I just need to let you know that Phantasm is probably my favorite horror movie of all time. If not number one, it's definitely in my top 5. But the series kind of takes a nosedive and gets very weird and low financed and just gets pretty cheesy, but it's still fun. And if you're a diehard fan of the Phantasm, story, and especially the first one, then it's fun to follow the whole series of movies. It definitely gets arduous and it's definitely a long grind, so that's why it's taken me so long to do this. Originally I was just gonna review the original because it's, like I said, my favorite or one of my favorite horror movies of all time. But then I was like, to do Phantasm real justice, I need to do the whole thing. So, and I've had a few of you ask me to do this, or ask why I haven't done it. So, I bought the box set of all 5 movies, so I was like, you know what? Here we go. Phantasm was released in 1978, and completely created, written, produced, directed by Don Casarelli. One of my favorite things about Phantasm is the pacing, the way it's edited. And he actually edited this as well, which, you hear some people that are write and direct, but very rarely do they also do the editing. Especially because the editing is so grueling and time consuming. But this was his child. This was his baby. He put everything into this. His own dad helped finance this movie. So one of my favorite things about Phantasm is the way it's edited, the pacing. It feels like a dream. Everything about it, the way it's shot, the camera angles, the sound, like the score on this is fantastic. The theme of Phantasm is one of my favorite themes of any horror movie of all time. It's so iconic to me. I feel like it's so underrated. I mean, this movie in general is underrated, but it has a very large cult following, so it's hard to say it's really totally underrated because it does have a good sized cult following. But when you hear people talk about the greatest this and this and this in horror, you never hear this movie mentioned. You never hear Tall Man mentioned as one of the greatest horror icons. You never hear the soundtrack and the theme song mentioned as one of the greatest scores of any horror movie. And it's definitely in there. Maybe not in your top 10, but it should definitely be in your top 20 or 30 or somewhere in that top 50, 100, in that, and you never hear it mentioned. It drives me crazy because this movie is so iconic, so well done, that I feel like it really deserves that. But the whole thing is created to feel like a bad dream. And even at the end, it's like you wake up and you never really quite know what's the dream and what's not. Everything about this leaves you with this unsettling type of feel. The whole movie as well has this very dark, morose, cold mausoleum type of thing that's always made me feel unsettled. It feels like going to a cemetery. It feels like a mausoleum. It's very strange and to me very unique the way that it's done. And then without getting too much into like the deep spoiler stuff, because I do want you to watch this if you've never seen it. To me, if you're a horror fan and you've never seen Phantasm, that's a crime. You need to go watch this right away. But the story, how they twist supernatural with other dimensions and all that is so cool and really ahead of its time. There wasn't really any movies that had done what this did. And I mean, nothing to this day has really done it exactly the way Phantasm did it. But there definitely wasn't anything at this time that was dealing in this kind of supernatural meets multiple dimensions and that kind of thing. At least that I know of. Maybe something really obscure that I've never heard of, but as far as what I've seen and what I've heard of, nothing really was doing this the way they did it when they did it. And for him to do this at such a young age is so impressive to me. Tall Man. Tall Man has always been terrifying. And the great thing about it is he doesn't have to wear this scary mask. He doesn't have to do much. He doesn't even have very many lines other than "boy," which is so iconic. But he just has this presence about him that is really terrifying. And I remember when I saw this, I was pretty young, and it was so scary. But the scary part of it is that it isn't really what's ever really drawn me into this. The stylization is what draws me to it. The way it's told, the way it looks, the way it makes you feel overall. That's the magic of this movie. It isn't necessarily the most scary movie. It does have its moments, but mostly, like I said, it's about the way it looks, the way it feels, the way it's presented is so unique and so cool. The basic premise of Phantasm is two brothers. The older one is Jody, the young one is Michael. Basically, their parents have died, and you're left with them now fending for themselves. The older brother is basically an adult, and he cares for his younger brother. Well, one of Jody, the older brother's friends, gets murdered. He doesn't know, but you see it in the very beginning that he's killed by this woman who ends up basically being Tall Man. She basically transforms into Tall Man, and that's the opening scene, so that's not too much of a giveaway. So anyway, they go to the funeral, and that's when the weird stuff starts to happen. Michael, the younger brother, witnesses Tall Man carrying a coffin, freaks out, jumps on his motorcycle, goes and tells his brother. There's this thing between the brothers where Michael, because his parents died, he's so attached to his older brother Jody, and he's always terrified that his older brother is going to leave him. And so he's always following around everywhere he goes. And the whole movie really deals with the younger brother Michael dealing with his fears. He's basically afraid of everything. And the whole key to the movie is him overcoming his fears. And multiple things happen where he has to overcome his fears in order to fight off Tall Man. Tall Man is basically this large funeral caretaker, but he's creepy as hell. And like I said, they witness him doing stuff where you know this guy's not right. He's supernatural. Something's going on. And they also have a friend named Reggie, who's one of the other key characters. And he drives an ice cream truck and plays music. But anyway, so basically the three of them have to try to figure out what's going on with this Tall Man. What's going on with these tiny little troll things that run around and are trying to kill everybody. And the whole scheme of the movie is them trying to figure this out and trying to stop the Tall Man. There are some things definitely about Phantasm that date it, but for the most part, this movie is just so unique that it's hard to really feel like it's from any time period. It definitely has that 70s feel about it, early 80s, but it's so unique. To me, Phantasm is a one-of-a-kind. There's never been anything quite like it. The story, the way it looks, the pacing, everything is so unique. Alright guys, thanks for watching. Up next will be Phantasm 2. Make sure you crush that like button. And remember, horror can be fun. I'll see you guys next time.